Hey there friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I was going to make a video on Leviathan's Breath being the best exotic weapon in Destiny 2 Season of Defiance, especially with some of the artifact perks that we have this season. However, I was playing with a Starfire Protocol Warlock build, and as a Titan main, this thing is so busted. It's so easy to survive. There's just so many ways to do insane damage. It's just crazy, and it actually pairs very well with a lot of the void options in the artifact as well. Like, you can get volatile flow with your void weapons and just do insane amounts of damage while staying alive because of your wells and your rifts and all that kind of good stuff. So ultimately, I dislike when something overshadows everything else in every aspect, and that's where Well of Radiance comes in for the Warlock. Is you get told not to run anything else. Like, I love the Strand builds in Destiny 2 for Warlock. I love Nova Bomb Devourer builds, the Stasis Osmiomancy builds. All of that stuff is very good. I think Arc needs a little bit of a buff, especially in PvE, but overall, there's a lot of really fun options. But if you're really doing end game stuff like Grandmasters or contest mode raid master raids and you're struggling, it's just such a safe fallback option you can toss on, and it's just so universally good it overshadows everything else. And that's one of the hard parts. I hate when I'm making content and I'm making builds and I know at the end of the day that one specific build is just going to overshadow everything else, and I will get comments from people being like, oh well, that's cool and all, but this clears, right? The Starfire Protocol Warlock is just better. And it's honestly true, and that's one of the most unfortunate parts, is that I wish everything did something well and something okay or bad, so that way there was kind of a trade-off, you know? That's what I love to see in Destiny, when I gotta make a conscious decision to be like, okay, this is gonna be great for ad clear, but it's gonna struggle for boss damage. How do I make it better for boss damage and really take advantage of the strong points? Or vice versa. This is going to keep me alive all the time. Like, this build can ad clear, can do boss damage, can keep you alive. Survivability is crazy high. And that's really where it's above everything else in all categories. I think survivability and boss damage can be really good with like a Devour build, but your ad clear can sometimes suffer because of it. This build is just it feels like there's no real trade-off, and that's something I think that's not good for even in PvE games. Everyone's gonna say, oh, it's PvE, leave it alone. But some slight tuning, maybe some buffs elsewhere too. Like, I'm not opposed to other things being buffed up in order to match this or be close to this, but I do think the Starfire Protocol Warlock does need to be toned down just a bit. So I'm rocking Incinerator Snap. I could have tossed on Celestial Fire. I don't know why. This one's just fun for me. And then Fusion Grenade, and then it works really well with Touch of Aspect. Fusion Grenades explode twice. I'm going to have them all the time. We've also got your Fragments, Ember of Mercy. When you revive an ally, you and your other allies gain restoration nearby. But picking up a Fire Sprite grants restoration. So if I'm running around and constantly generating and getting the Fire Sprites, I'm going to have them all the time and get restoration pretty consistently. Ember of Ashes, you apply more scorch stacks. Ember of Singeing, your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. Again, it feels like I have my Rift infinitely, and being able to just constantly heal. You could even toss on, if you have someone else healing, you could toss on Empowering Rift, and it's still going to be really nasty. Then you got Ember of Searing, defeating scorched targets to grants melee energy and creates a Fire Sprite. Again, with the Fusion Grenade, with the Incinerator Snap, all that kind of stuff, scorching enemies constantly and generating so many Fire Sprites. So, yeah, the Starfire Protocol is just kind of crazy. It's funny because this wasn't used for a long time in Destiny 2. Fusion Grenades have additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage. Fusion Grenade kills grant Rift energy. Essentially, the loop is you're just kind of chunking enemies with your Fusion Grenades, getting kills with that, and then increasing your weapon damage, so on and so forth. Now, luckily, we had this season the artifact perks Rain of Firebolts as well as Flare Up, and I thought that we might see a rise in the Firebolt grenade builds. But on the Warlock, there's just no reason to run it because the fusion build is just so much better, right? You can if you want to, but you don't really have to. I'm also, Volatile Flow is really, really good this season. I think it's almost too good at times because you can generate a ton of orbs with this. For example, I'm running Void Siphon, but more likely I'm going to use Firepower and Heavy Handed to generate a lot of orbs of power. And doing that, I'll constantly have my volatile rounds with my No Composure or Leviathan's Breath. I'm also rocking a Firefright with 4th Time's a Charm and Osmosis, so I have a solar weapon in case I need to take on solar shields. They took away like match game and everything, but it's still nice to have a variety of weapons. And I think Osmosis is still a very good perk that people underrate at times. Now, going into my full mods, I've got Heavy Ammo Finder, I've got Void Siphon, Ashes to Assets, Firepower ×2 and Heavy Handed, Sniper Damage Resist, Void Reserves, Void Damage Resist. I was doing an activity that was I was taking more Void Damage, but like I didn't need that at all. I can swap that out for literally anything, and it doesn't matter because I didn't feel like I was ever in danger of dying. Void Weapon Surge ×2 and Absolution, just to have all those orbs allow me to get my abilities back faster, and then triple time dilation. So my stats aren't even crazy on this build. 36 strength. I do have 94 discipline and 100 recovery and only a 61 resilience. So it's not like my stats are insane, but survivability is such with this build that I can just spam my Rift essentially and stay inside of it and heal consistently. That allows me to defeat enemies, it allows me to chuck more grenades, and it's such a fun loop that I really enjoy. And I don't want this to be altered too much. Like, I don't want them to destroy this build because I think the loop is a lot of fun and it can be really good. I just wonder if it's a little bit broken because of how good it is universally, right? There would be better options for certain things. If, like, I still think Osmiomancy Shadebinder is better for Ad Clear overall, right? But this does such a good job with Ad Clear, and the enemies are really dense enough for it to matter. And that's why this build, again, it's the best in the game. I think it will get looked at eventually. I wouldn't be surprised if Bungie does nerf it, much to the chagrin of some people. But mostly it's because the other builds are just outshined in endgame content and raids and stuff like that. And you can throw this on without thinking and spam your abilities to a degree that I think is ultimately fun, and it's an enjoyable build to have on, but it just makes things just that bit too simple compared to the other builds that you have to think about a little bit more. So those are my thoughts on the matter. I do know that if they don't nerf this, I won't be too sad about it. It'll be fine. Ultimately, I think for the health of the game, it would be good. And I'm a firm believer that while I want to see things buffed often, like Arc Warlock, like some parts of the Voidwalker, like the Nova Bomb, I want to see some of those things buffed. Like, I would love to see the Vortex Grenade get a buff and be just absolutely insane, right? But even with those getting buffed, I still think that Dawnblade would need to be taken down just a peg. Not Dawnblade specifically, but Well of Radiance. Maybe you even combine a Well of Radiance nerf with a Daybreak buff, and that would be very, very nice. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. It helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more content like this. I know I'm a little controversial in wanting things buffed and nerfed. A lot of people are like, PvE is too easy, so nerf everything. Or other people are like, no, it's PvE, don't nerf anything. I find myself somewhere in the middle because I do like variety of options and a lot of things to be very viable in different parts of content. So that's just where I stand. Subscribe to the video, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps me out tremendously. My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.